welcome to another hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena and Sid, which is she. I'm Cindy Brown. You're not, but it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at Sid Kid Eddie. Once again, that's Sid Kid Eddie. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG. I forgot the thing for a second.
Make sure, don't forget this. You can download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your ads, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, wherever you download your ads. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our any of our 6 live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. Or if you miss any of our shows, you can catch them on our Sports Zone Chicago app. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow the guys at War Media at WAR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Joining us to kick off the top of the show before we get into our football coverage, we have to discuss the fortunate ending to the 2021 Chicago White Sox. Just in case some of you guys have been living on the rock, unlike Lakeena, the White Sox will go down to the Houston Astros in 4 games in the American League Division Series. To discuss that and a whole lot more, to put a capper on the season and perhaps predict what's going to happen in the offseason, our good friend of the show. This is the first time he's joined us during our live show. He is Mr. Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th podcast. Check out their website at soxon35th.com. Here's Mr. Jordan Lazowski. Jordan, welcome back to the show, my man. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me back. Love to see you're doing these live now. This is fun.
Yes, we love doing it live, because last time, for those of you that don't know, just new to our show, last time we had Jordan on our show, it was the podcast version. It was during the trade deadline, and it was pre-recorded, so it was kind of tough, but we did the best that we could. I know we got some comments and some downloads during that time, so it's great to do these shows live, so we can cut to the chase and just let it fly to a certain extent. So we're happy they're real live. So as we said before, really thank Sean Sierra and Maya Kai for giving us the opportunity to do a live show. Now, since the White Sox season is over, Jordan, we talked with you before we went on live, and you said you were there for the I'm assuming the last 2 games of that series.
Yes. Well, Sunday was fun.
Yeah, Sunday was fun. Watching it, I wasn't there, unfortunately, but watching it at home, it was a great feeling to watch the White Sox win Game 3. But we're gonna dissect the blame pie. I know there's more than enough to go around. There's, like I said, there's enough to go around. But which more of the blame pie do you give to? The lack of offense, the bullpen, the starting pitching, which had an ERA of 10+, or Tony La Russa? Who deserves the most of the blame pie?
All of it kind of comes back to every other part of the team was put in such a bad position because the starting pitching 1 through 4 just was not effective. It was those were your horses all year. And all of a sudden, come playoff time, Lance Lynn gets hit around. Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease can't find the plate. Carlos Rodon's dealing with that dead arm, and you can't really trust them that long. So it's like your horses all year. If you can't rely on those guys in the playoffs, it makes everybody else's job that much more difficult. So if you're looking at the blame of it, it's got to start with the starting pitching. You got to put your team in a better position to win, and really none of them did a great job of doing that over the course of the 4 games.
Do you think weather played an issue because they had to wait an extra day to come back because there was some storms that hit? And do you think that kind of, sort of messed up with their momentum, you think?
I think momentum's a tough one because you're right. You'd rather play that game the next day. At the same time, I think it kind of benefited them because they got to face McCullers at home versus if they made it to Game 5, having to face him on the road would have been just not great. I don't know. I do wish they had played that Monday game, though. I will say that. I don't know how much it'll affect them, but I will say I think from just a momentum standpoint, I wish they did play that Monday game instead of on a Tuesday.
Sticking with the starting rotation, Jordan, I want to focus in on Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon. First, Dylan Cease. You mentioned you were there on Sunday. I watched his start closely. That was the shortest outing of his career. The first inning, he looked great, but during the second inning, in my personal opinion, he got squeezed on a couple of calls, including that ball 3 to Jordan Alvarez, which ended up being a walker. Then he totally lost his confidence. I'm not going to say that he's not mentally tough. He is. You have to beat the pitch in the major leagues, but I thought he lost all confidence, and then led him to not have a great second inning. Same thing with Rodon on Tuesday. He didn't get a couple calls in the second inning, and they let it get into their head, and they lost all their confidence. How much did that play into a factor, and how much did the pressure of the playoffs play into a factor for both those guys, given the fact that the White Sox were trailing the series?
Mm-hmm. I think the pressure, the momentum, and the playoff experience is a huge part of it to start. And I also think that the Houston Astros are a pretty good ball club. You can't make mistakes to them like Cease and Rodon were doing, falling behind guys, walking guys. Like they're gonna make you pay for those mistakes more than any other team in baseball, honestly. And it was a tough matchup for the White Sox because of the Astros' ability to just have really, really good at bats. And both Rodon and Cease made some good pitches that were out of the zone that other teams probably swing at, and they feel a little bit different about their starts.
Well, once Carlos Correa got on base, and after that Sheets home run in the very next inning of the third, that kind of started, open the floodgates, if you will. And Sid mentioned some of the calls. We had Rodon, for the first couple of innings, but then he went back to being the Rodon that we know and love. Unfortunately, giving up hits and walks, it just wasn't very good. And also, too, I think like the middle relief kind of came back to bite the Sox. So it's all a bunch of. I'm a little flustered because I kind of felt like the Sox should have won this series, but they kind of went back to the old habits, walking guys, not taking advantage of guys on base, some defensive miscues. Which one would you think was the biggest sort of issue that led them to this loss in the series?
I think they just, besides the pitching, they just didn't hang with the offense. Their first 20 hits of the series were all singles. You're not going to win baseball games in 2021 when you're only hitting singles. Number one, it's really hard to string 4 or 5 hits together against really good pitchers nowadays. So you can't just hit a bunch of singles. And number two, this team was built to put the ball out of the ballpark. And if you're not doing that, you're not playing to your own strengths. The pitching staff gets a lot of the blame, which they deserve. And on the offensive side, at least 2 of the games, they weren't really in it. I mean, the first game and the last game, they just did not show up. You can't only show up 2 out of 4 games and expect to win a series.
Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th podcast and SoxOn35th.com is joining us here on the live edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I'm Sydney Brown. If you have a question or a comment for Jordan to respond to, you can do so on our Facebook page, that's Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, or on our YouTube page. Search for Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up and running for you. Jordan, one thing that many of us, including ourselves here on this show, didn't talk about during the regular season is that you could run on the White Sox in terms of stealing bases. Mm-hmm. We saw that with Michael Kopech in the last game. In the last game, and it was just ridiculous. Yasmani Grandal, although he could draw up the walks at the plate, and we saw him hit that big home run in Game 3. He doesn't throw out runners very well. It looks like Zach Collins doesn't do that either, as far as doing that yet, and I'm sure he's going to get more playing time, we assume, next year. But talk to us about the White Sox not really paying attention to detail in terms of keeping runners in check on base.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in terms of base runners, it's not a strength of Grandal's behind the plate. So what you have to do as a pitching staff is kind of help your catcher out. Don't let these guys get as big a leads. You got to vary your holds on the mound. You got to use a slide step. You got to do more than just give a courtesy throw over to first base. It's you can't just you don't have the world's greatest throwing catcher back there. So you need to make adjustments as a pitching staff, and the pitching staff did not. And you saw it in that last Tigers series, really, during the regular season, and then in games 3 and 4 as well. It's just they took advantage because pitchers weren't making adjustments, and even the perfect throws. I think it was Kimbrel in game 4. Grandal had a perfect throw down to second base. It was still late. No slide step, no hold differences. If it makes it easier for the runners to run, and you don't have a great throwing catcher, it's not a great combination.
Do you think there's something wrong with Tim Anderson? He took the rest, for a few weeks, and he came back. He looked good for a little bit, but then there were other times when some of those same, instances were coming up, and he was 0 for 4 in game 4. Do you think either was maybe something wrong with his knees or maybe hamstrings?
I think it's just, this offense goes as Anderson goes, and he had a great game 3, and the White Sox scored 12 runs, and he went 0 for 4 game 4, and the White Sox scored 1 run. So when your catalyst has an off day, it's kind of sets the tempo for the rest of the offense. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong. It's just he picked the wrong day to have a rough day at the plate, and the White Sox offense suffered as a result.
Sticking with this series, Jordan, of course, Ryan Tepera, who was one of the few bright spots for the White Sox during this series against the Astros, came out following the Game 3 win on last Sunday and said that he accused the Astros of cheating where they were in Houston last weekend. Of course, Dusty Baker dismissed it. I try not to do hot takes, but my initial thought was he was trying to give the White Sox a psychological advantage, and not knowing that Houston, they've been under that cloud over the last few years. They just use it as a motivation and go out and kick your butt. What were your thoughts about Tepera's comments following Game 3 on last Sunday?
Yeah, personally, I don't really have a problem with it. He probably shouldn't have said it. At the end of the day, if you've cheated, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt that you're not cheating anymore. That's just tough. That's how it is. You can't just expect people to think, oh, you got caught, you're done doing it, you're never going to try something else. That's just the nature of the game. Did he need to say it? No. Did it bother me that much? No. Do I really think the Astros needed that motivation with the ALCS knocking on the doorstep? Nah. I think it just got overblown, and some of the Astros players took it a bit too far. It's just, you got to accept the fact that the same thing happened to the Red Sox when the Rays were talking about their series. If you've cheated in the past, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt moving forward. And you're just going to have to live with that at the end of the day.
Gosh. It's just all this crazy. How great did Jose Abreu look? He was 0 for 2. So, looked like he might have been banged up a little bit. Do you think he can keep this up going into next year?
The hope is he does. I think this is the last year on his current contract. So you'd assume he's getting up there. I think it's 34, 35 at this point now. You're trying to figure out how much longer is he going to play this way. And every time I've doubted him in the past, he's kind of proven me wrong. So I'm not sure if I'm the best opinion holder of when Abreu's finally gonna regress a little bit to maybe play more so how it's a both 35-year-old would. But at the same time, he's playing very well. And I think you keep running him out there, but still find opportunity to give guys like Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets a chance, because those are your future, and you got to play for the future as well and get these guys ready to make this a long-term competitive window for the White Sox.
Jordan Lazowski from Sox Up 35th. We're halfway home with him live in living color right here on Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Jordan, let's move over to the White Sox all season. Assuming that the CBA gets done on time, the White Sox have a few holes they need to fill. Perhaps they need to go out and get a new starting pitcher. Perhaps they need a second baseman. They need a new right fielder, assuming that Cespedes is kid in our minor league system. Is he the answer? We don't know. But where do the White Sox, which position should they start with first in terms of where they need to improve this offseason?
I think I seem to hold the opinion, and it seems to be the counter to what most people hold, that I'd prefer to start in right field. We've never had a long-term option in right field. It always feels like a stopgap that never works, and historically, second base is a weaker position.
Outside of Jermaine Dye.
Outside of Jermaine Dye. Jermaine Dye is like the last time we had like a true really good right fielder. Exactly. Those are the days when we had a good right fielder, and now we haven't really had that since then. So I'd start there. Historically, second base is weaker. except for your top guys like Altuve, Brandon Lowe, guys, Kevin Biggio, guys at the top of the league. Marcus Semien, another example. Other than those guys, that position does not usually stand out offensively. Right field usually does. I'd start there. I'd get an impact bat there, and then see what utility guys I can start to sign to fill second base. And I think they'll probably get like a 5 starter as well, because you figure at current you have Lynn, Giolito, Cease, Kopech for next year.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need a 5 starter to kind of help bring Kopech along in terms of his innings. And you have Keuchel as well. So maybe you get a back-end starter, a really good right fielder, and a decent second baseman. If you're not moving on or trading any guys from this current team, then that's kind of how I would prioritize it.
Now they did pick up Kimbrel's contract, it looks like. So do you think
Mhm.
do you think they keep him, or do they try to trade him? Probably maybe get like those, top, fielder guys that you're talking about.
I think they end up trading him. I think the move that when it was made was a move that teams with deep playoff aspirations make. You need a solid back end of the bullpen, and that's the kind of move you go to grab Kimbrel. Didn't end up working the way they wanted to. You pick his option up and you try and get some value out of him. There are going to be plenty of teams who are looking for closers right now. I don't think there'll be a shortage on the market for Craig Kimbrel. You put him back in his normal role and you see what happens. And I think that's how you sell it if you're Rick Hahn is, hey, he was out of his role. Just put him back in his closer role. He'll be fine. Not a big issue at all. So.
And speaking of another few of the bright spots during this White Sox short playoff run was Luis Robert. He was heading to cover out the ball, and he was hitting above 350 when he came back from his injury. Talk to us about him going forward, Jordan, because there's many people around baseball thinking they're thinking that he could be on this generation's Mike Trout, or to a lesser extent Shohei Ohtani is being a future MVP of baseball.
That's your stud. I mean, that's the guy that you paid a lot of money to sign internationally. That this is what you're expecting from him. I think he's shown that he's a true 5-tool player when he puts it all together. And if he can stay healthy, stay on the field, and continue to work good at bats, he has a ceiling of a top 5 player in baseball. And if you have one of those on your team, it's been a long time since the White Sox have had one of those, like a true, clear consensus top 5 talent in baseball. And that's exciting to have for a very long time.
What about Eloy? Because he didn't get hurt, playing center field. Yay, thank God. Do you think we'll see more of that next year, or will he be DHing more? Will it be a mixture like we've seen since he came back from injury?
I think it'll end up being a mixture, because now Andrew Vaughn is showing us that he's a capable left fielder, which means it offers him positional flexibility, and it offers the Sox the ability to get Eloy out of left field once in a while. If he can stay on the field healthy and he works a bit better at bats, I think he just got in a slump where he's just swinging at everything. If he can start to work counts and get back to how he was both early in 2021 as well as throughout the season in 2020, where he's working at bats, he's getting his pitch, and he's driving it the opposite way, you're going to continue to see a very good Eloy Jimenez.
Last few minutes with Jordan Lazowski of Sox on 35th, right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Jordan, we expect some moves as we talk about, as we talked about here in the last few minutes, to be made this offseason, assuming that the CBA gets done and gets done on time. I've been telling White Sox fans over the last couple of days that in order to win the World Series, you had to go through some heartbreak. In order for your team to improve, you may have to make a trade. There's usually a trade or two that may upset the fan base at the moment, but it benefit at the end. Of course, back in the day, of course, with the Bulls coming up in basketball, of course, they traded Charles Oakley, Michael Jordan's best friend, on and off the court for Bill Cartwright. It benefited both teams. Of course, the Bulls went on to do what they did in the 90s. But do you see that coming this offseason, if not sometime next season during the trade deadline, or this time next offseason? I'm just throwing names out there. Maybe like a Lucas Giolito or a Yohan Moncada, somebody on this current roster that people love. And then if there's a veteran stud pitcher that this White Sox need to put them over the top, can you see one of those names going anytime soon over the next 12 months?
I think you could see some potentially unpopular names. I think Eloy and Andrew Vaughn are two names that might be a little bit more likely because I think Giolito, I hope he signs a long-term extension. And I think Moncada's long-term extension is kind of going to keep him as a cornerstone at third base. With Jimenez, Vaughn, and Abreu, and even Grandal to an extent on the lineup, that's a lot of DH type guys all in the same lineup. And it's very hard to find positions for all of them. So if you can find someone who maybe plays right field or a really good second baseman or something like that, who kind of fills the gap a little bit better than maybe Eloy or Vaughn does on the team, you have to at least consider it, just because you're not trading those guys for nothing. You're getting a really good player back. You're just getting a player back that is really good and fits your team a little bit better. And I think with those four guys, it's hard to find a place for all of them consistently over the course of 162, especially, and without making the lineup too right-handed heavy and too ground ball heavy at times as well.
Where do you think the White Sox are? They the favorites to win the AL Central next year? But then Detroit's on the up and coming. You really don't know what Minnesota and Cleveland, what they're going to do. Casey, assuming that Salvador Perez doesn't leave. So where do you think are the Sox the favorite in the AL Central next year?
I think they have a year or two where they're still the favorite in the Central. It kind of depends on what Detroit does this offseason in terms of who they sign to play and how some of their guys develop. I think they're the nearest threat to the White Sox is going to be whatever Detroit does in the next coming seasons. Cleveland looks ready to go through a rebuild. Minnesota is going to have to go through some sort of retooling, and Kansas City just kind of sits there in the middle a lot. And it's a good time for the White Sox to kind of take hold of the division for the next couple of years, and just hope you get some wins out there before Detroit comes knocking at your door, because they're going to make it hard for us sooner rather than later.
I think before I ask my last question, I think Kansas City is where the White Sox were at toward the end of 2018 and 2019. I'm not saying they're going to spend money this offseason. They may, but I think they're on the cusp. But like you said, Detroit, they had a surprising year this year with a cheating ass AJ Hinch, but we'll leave that alone. But I think Kansas City is more ready than Detroit. But then again, you never know. It all depends on what happens with the CBA this offseason. My last question to you, Jordan. Of course, Lakeena and myself talked about it on our last show here on Sports Zone Chicago that with Sean and Maya just a few moments ago that the San Francisco Giants, they lost on a bad call, but I think the Dodgers were going to win that series anyway, even though I picked San Francisco to win. But it's the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves for the National League Championship Series, and then the American League, which starts tonight, Boston and Houston. Who do you see winning both those series? Who's your World Series matchup, and who ultimately takes the prize for 2021?
Unfortunately, based on those teams, I feel like we get a Houston Dodgers rematch, just because those
folks at Fox would be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, Houston is as much as I hate Houston, they are a really, really good ball club. They're very hard to beat. They do everything well, and they don't make many mistakes. Dodgers are the same way. I'd love a Red Sox Braves World Series just because those are two teams that were not supposed to be there. But I think if it's Houston, LA again, I don't know. I would have a hard time not picking Houston because that's a really, really good ball club.
Who wins MVP?
Like in the World Series?
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll say this. If it does, among the Houston, since you're picking Houston, who you think wins MVP for the World Series?
Oh, at Houston, I don't know. I would probably say Correa. He is their most complete ball player. He torched the White Sox a couple times, and I expect he does it to Boston too, and then LA right after that.
All right. It should be an interesting rest of the playoffs. The American League Championship Series starts tonight with Boston and Houston. Of course, this weekend, the National League Championship Series will begin between the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers, the rematch from a year ago. And it should be a very interesting offseason for the Chicago White Sox. Our good friend Jordan Lazowski for Sox on 35th podcast at soxon35th.com. Check out the podcast and that website. You see Jordan's Twitter handle right there, JLazowski14 on the Twitter. Jordan, as always, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us, my man. Thank you very much. We'll definitely do this again during the offseason. I'm sure it's going to be fun.
Thanks, Jordan.
Pleasure. Thank you both for having me on.
Thank you so much. You have a good one. You stay safe.
You as well. Take care.
All right. That was once again Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th podcast and soxon35th.com. Check out, they have great work over there. They have great content. And Jordan's one of the best in terms of talking White Sox baseball. Anybody on the social media atmosphere, and one of the best in Chicago to talk White Sox baseball. Lakeena, let's take this 2-2 break. When we return, we'll give you our thoughts about last night's game between the Dodgers and the Giants, and we'll give you our picks for the league championship series, both in the National and American leagues. And we'll start our hashtag Football Friday show with the best games for tomorrow from the world of college football. Along with Lakeena McGee, I'm Sydney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday, right here, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sydney Brown, along with Lakeena McGee. Lakeena, before we get into our football coverage, let's wrap up with the baseball talk. And we'll start with the National League. Of course, this weekend, the National League Championship Series will begin. The rematch from last year in the bubble between the Atlanta Braves and, yes, the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know half the country's upset, especially the way the game ended last night with Wilmer Flores from the San Francisco Giants again called out on the third strike on a check swing. Of course, one of the biggest surprises of the game, Lakeena, was Dodgers manager Dave Roberts not going with Julio Urias. He says he went with a reliever to start the game, and Max Scherzer, not Kenley Jansen, came in the ninth inning to shut things down for the San Francisco Giants. Even though Chris Bryant had a hit in the ninth inning, the San Francisco Giants couldn't score. The Los Angeles Dodgers are back where they need to be in terms of the NLCS. Lakeena, as I said before on this program, as we said over the last week or so, we expected the series to go 5 games. It did last night. It ended in controversial fashion, but the Dodgers did just enough to win that series. Max Scherzer picked up the save, as I mentioned, but we talked about this the other day, Lakeena. Max Scherzer gave you a performance in Game 3, but the Dodgers couldn't score. They ended up losing Game 3. It was sweet revenge for him last night.
Yeah, and that sounds like totally random. That Matt Scherzer closer. I think that just sounds really. And that's what Dave Roberts did. Like you said, he did a mixture of relievers and such, and it actually ended up working for them. And look, sometimes you got to do that. You want to save your guys, and Scherzer might pitch, probably maybe game 3 or 4. So we'll see how that goes with with that, I mean, the check swing, I mean, it's one of those things where you're sort of like, some say it was the right call, others say it wasn't, but it is what it is. Who knows what would have happened had that not been called? But look, I think the Dodgers would have won anyway, I feel like. So I think it just, delayed the inevitable. And plus some folks said that who made that call, wanted to go home. So he didn't want to have to be there didn't want to be there for another hour or so. So maybe that's why. But look, I think Corey Seager, and also too, Cody Bellinger. I mean, he kind of, he broke the game open with that go-ahead RBI single that scored Lux, but that scored
redemption for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because he had been struggling these last few weeks and the season end going into divisional round. But look, as for this series, I mean, I know the Braves feel like they should have won that series against the Red Sox. I mean, against the Dodgers last year, but. I just think that the Dodgers are kind of on a mission. I think, look, Atlanta, as great as they've been, the fact that they've been able to kind of, sort of, I don't want to say sneaking there, but sort of like, was like expectations, because no one thought that they would even get to the playoffs, especially when, Acuna got hurt. But I think this will show you why I think the Dodgers are going to show you why that they've been doing this. This is their 5th straight trip to the NLCS. So I think they're going to show you that tonight, and this will probably go 6 like the previous, like the one last year did, and I think the Dodgers will win in 6.
I'm with you, Lakeena. The Dodgers will win in 6. They should win in 5, but I'll give the Braves an extra game. The Braves will win 2 games in this series, so the Dodgers should win this in 6. Remember last year in Game 5, I believe Game 5 it was, Mookie Betts made that great catch in right field. His bat started to turn around. I expect them to do that this year. The last couple of games of this series against the Giants, he picked it up offensively. Of course, that whole team got shut out in Game 3. But Games 4 and 5, the offense started to pick up. Who set the tone? Mookie Betts. I expect them to set the tone in this series. Atlanta's going to have to play catch-up, unlike a year ago.
Yeah, and that's probably what's going to end up happening. And unfortunately, in this case, I think the Dodgers might step on the gas and not even look back if that's the case. Like I said, I think I'll give Atlanta two wins, but I think the Dodgers will end up winning it in 6. What about the AL? Of course, you got the Astros, of course, but now you have the Red Sox, and that kind of another team that no one really thought would make it this far. So, where do you see this series?
I think, especially now with Lance McCullers Jr. Out for the American League Championship Series, it's going to come down to the rest of that starting staff for the Houston Astros. Can they shut out a very good Boston Red Sox lineup? As we talked about all year, Lakeena, I mentioned this. The Red Sox were carried by their lineup, especially early in the season when you didn't have your starting pitching in Chris Sale. Of course, Nathan Eovaldi has been impressive for the Red Sox in their starting rotation throughout these playoffs. Of course, the wild card game against the Yankees, and he showed up once again during this ALDS against the Tampa Bay Rays. So I expect Nathan Eovaldi to continue momentum as far as leading this starting staff. Wherever you get out of Chris Sale, right behind him for the Red Sox is a bonus. But the question here will be 2 things. Can that Houston Astros starting staff without McCullers shut down their Red Sox office and their bullpen? Remember, Lakeena, I've been talking about this all year. I'm not a big fan of their Red Sox bullpen, but they showed up in their series against Tampa Bay. And if it's going to come down to the bullpen, can the Red Sox surprise Houston? Because Houston, as we saw in this series against the White Sox, they are a very good offense. And can the Red Sox, if it gets down to their bullpen for the Red Sox, can they keep up the momentum from the last series against Tampa Bay to neutralize that Astros offense?
Well, and remember too, we saw that in that series against the Sox, the Astros bullpen, it's actually pretty, good. They actually shut down the White Sox, especially in Game 4. So it's going to really depend on which bullpen shows up. But like I said, I feel like even without McCullers Jr., I think they have the depth and pitching to kind of help bring up the slack. So I'm sure Dusty Baker, this is his first rodeo in the LCS. So I think he's going to move some things around. And I feel like the Astros are on a mission. I think they feel as though like this us against the world mentality. I think Boston does too, but I think to a bigger extent the Astros. So I think they're going to use that as motivation. And look, I think Chris Sale probably may pitch a really good gem and perhaps steal a game in Houston. But I think this is going to go 6. I think I have Houston in 6 just because I trust their offense and their bullpen more than I do the Red Sox.
I'll surprise y'all go with the Red Sox in 7. because I think the Red Sox will have enough offense to outslug of the Houston Astros. I'm sure one of those games is going to have a slugfest, so get ready for that. But I believe that the Red Sox bullpen, who's done a great job so far in these playoffs, I think they can neutralize. If you could just neutralize the Astros lineup, you'll be okay, because the starting pitching, I think, for the Red Sox will be fine. It's just that bullpen, can they keep up this surprising trend that they did in the last series against Tampa Bay? Two players to watch for in this series. For the Red Sox, Rafael Devers, their third baseman. I told you he's the best third baseman offensively in all of baseball. If you're a White Sox fan that decides to watch this series, look at Devers' numbers, and that should be the numbers of Yohan Moncada starting next year. I'll leave it at that. On the flip side, Kyle Tucker, as you mentioned, Lakeena, in our interview with Jordan Lazowski in our last segment, he's been a White Sox killer throughout this series. Let's see if he continues to put up those power numbers against this Red Sox pitching staff in this ALCS.
Both these series should go the distance, 6 or 7, maybe. We'll see. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. Let's start our football power hour. We're going to start a little early, but the week 7 in college football, we're already like more than halfway through.
It's been too fast.
I know, right? We're almost halfway through the season there. So what are your marquee games? There are a couple, but what are your top games to watch?
I know tonight at 9:30 on ESPN is California versus Oregon. I know University of Cal hasn't been a very good team in the recent years, but Oregon is always up there in terms of the Pac-12 every year, and I want to see them put up some points tonight. They should be able to do that tonight.
Yeah, Cal's had their struggles in the last couple of years, so they should be able to. Well, I think they're still smarty from that loss to Stanford a couple of weeks back, and they actually did get the week off, so that should help them kind of refocus. San Diego's also trying to keep their undefeated streak alive later on tonight at 9:30 to play San Jose State. That's a CBS Sports Network game, so that should be a pretty good one there between those two. And
I know you love your West Coast football.
Well, of course. Both good West Coast games tonight. Starting off the ABC game at 11 a.m., you got Desmond Ridder and the rest of the Cincinnati Bearcats host UCF. UCF, they're kind of in a situation, but they've been sort of like rebuilding the last couple of years. So Cincy should not have a problem with Central Florida. We'll see. Michigan State, I think I don't know if they're on upset alert, but I think you don't want to be caught looking ahead, against Indiana and Bloomington. I know they've had some injuries that Hoosiers have, but I'm sure that's the big noon Saturday game. So that should be a fun one there down in Bloomington.
Now, the big new Saturday game on Fox at 11 o'clock tomorrow will be number 12 Oklahoma State at 5-0 against number 25, the Texas Longhorns. They check in with a regular 4-2. Now, Texas and Oklahoma, the Sooners, last week, they were in a high-scoring affair. Do you expect the same thing tomorrow? I'm not saying it's going to get to that point, but I expect somewhere in between, at least the 30s.
Yeah, that this might be kind of like first 30 or 35 or something like that.
Yeah,
But,
that's the feeling I get.
Yeah, but so I had the week off, so they kind of had a chance to heal up. Oh, well, we'll see where Texas is, because after that loss, just wetting the bed against Oklahoma. So we'll see what their mindset is going in that game. So that should be a fun one. And I think Oklahoma State has won the last couple of meetings they played, a couple of times they played each other. So this should be an interesting one there down in Austin. Auburn and Arkansas. That's the 11 a.m. game on CBS.
This is an elimination game in terms of
pretty much
top, so that division in the SEC. Arkansas, 2 bad losses. Auburn, they had a bad loss to I believe Georgia last week. So both teams need to rebound. Who's going to show up here for this one?
Always fun when these two teams play. Also, staying in the SEC, got Florida and LSU. Always interesting when those two hashed out. We'll see if Texas A&M, doesn't have a hangover as they play Missouri in Columbia. Let's see, Northwestern hosts Rutgers. 2 struggling teams. Rutgers have kind of been falling back to work, so we'll see how they do against Northwestern.
Yeah, can the Wildcats get to 500? I'm shocked that they're 2-3 the way they've been playing. I know they had last week off, but given the way they've been playing so far this season, they have a chance to get back to 500. Amazing.
Yeah, Nebraska.
I'm doing the Jordan shrug.
The weird things happen that way in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Nebraska and Minnesota, that should be an interesting one. there as well. Kicking off the 2:30 games. This should be a big one here on CBS and the SEC. You've got Kentucky against Georgia. I know Georgia's been banged up. We'll see if Kentucky's for real. This is going to be their first big test. This should be a fun one here down in Athens. Game day is going to be down there, so
yeah. I know that this is a 21.5-point spread for Georgia, but I believe Kentucky can cover. I really do. I think they'll give Georgia a run for their money early, but Georgia is going to come out with their running game, and the quarterback play has been tremendous this year for Georgia as well. So I expect Georgia to pull it out at the end. I think Kentucky will surprise some people early.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, like I said, we'll see how for real Kentucky is. Purdue and Iowa. Not really. It's not worse than that Iowa should be on upset alert, but Purdue they're kind of rebuilding, so we'll see. I mean, I'm sure Kirk Ferentz will have his guys ready and not to have that hangover from that one against Penn State. Excuse me, BYU and Baylor. That should be a fun one down in Waco. Miami and North Carolina. These are two teams from the ACC. Yeah, both had high expectations early in the year, and so we'll see what happens. That's going to be on the ACC network if you have that. Let's see.
Shout out to Northern Illinois. The Huskies, they're 4-2. They're going to host Bowling Green in DeKalb tomorrow at 2:30. That's on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, so you get a chance to check that out. As that should be a fun one. They're also TCU and Oklahoma. I mean, TCU has had, I don't want to say they have Oklahoma's number, they've beaten them before, but it's going to be interesting though, because Lincoln Riley is keeping it very close to the vest. So who's going to be the starting quarterback? Will it be Spencer Rattler or will it be Caleb Williams? I mean, he shut down practice to all the media, even their own student media newspapers. So he's really trying to be Fort Knox with that secret. So we'll see who is starting that game. That's the ABC primetime game at 6:30.
At 6 p.m. on ESPN, you'll have number 5 Alabama at 5-1 traveling to Mississippi State to face the Bulldogs. They check in at 3-2. I believe Alabama will get back on track. Should I say more, or do you know something that we don't know?
Look, Shane Bieber will have it. I don't look. Mississippi State is one of those. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you want to play Alabama after a loss. That's the last thing you want. So. We'll see. Ole Miss and Tennessee, that should be an interesting one on SEC. No, that's their primetime game. That should be a fun one. In the ACC, excuse me, I can't talk for some reason. NC State and Boston College. No one thought that these would be the top two teams in the ACC, but here we are. So I know Boston College lost to Clemson, but should be an interesting one down in Chestnut Hill, over in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday as we roll through the college football schedule for tomorrow, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. And continuing with the schedule, Lakeena, Iowa State and Kansas State will face off against each other tomorrow at 6:30. Both teams check in with records of 3-2 apiece. Lakeena, maybe I could see another offensive showing for both of these teams. Iowa State is favored by 6.5. I think it could be another high scoring affair, especially with Big 12 teams, another two Big 12 matchup teams getting together.
Yeah, Iowa State trying to get back on track, as well as Katy State trying to bounce back from Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. Stanford and Washington State, that's on ESPN. That's an early Pac-12 game, so no late night game for that. Also, too, when these two teams in the Pac-12, when these two teams play each other, you always throw the records out the window. UCLA and Washington, that will be on the Big Fox Network at 7:30. That's the nightcap. There.
Can Chip Kelly keep the people off his back for another week?
Yeah, exactly. Air Force, they're 5-1 at Boise State. We'll see if they have a letdown after that win against BYU, and also to Arizona State and Utah. That should be a fun one. That could be for control of the Pac-12 South. So.
Yeah, if Utah upsets Arizona State, they'll be 4-2. Arizona State will be 5-2 with the game back. So, like I said, it's a huge game for both teams, but I think it's a bigger one for Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the Arizona State too. I think if they could beat Utah, they could be in the driver's seat in the Pac-12 South. So we'll see.
Yeah, but then we'll have Hawaii at 3-3, at Nevada they're 4-1. That's on the CBS Sports Network at 9:30 p.m. tomorrow. So there's your Saturday slate for the world of college football. As you're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, I know we have some minutes left here before we close out hour number one. Let's review Thursday night's football contest between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a big lead, but they had to hold on to win the game by the score of 28-22. Tom Brady did his thing as usual last night, even with a busted finger, but it was Leonard Fournette's 2 touchdown carries that held it down for the Buccaneers offense.
Yeah, it was actually Gerald Avery's taunting penalty against Mr. Fournette that kind of kept that drive going. That probably could have given the ball back to the Eagles, and we would have been able to see what Jalen Hurts could have done, in a for the go ahead score. But look, I know people hate the rule, but you just got to be smarter about that kind of thing. But look, as for this, I mean, look, this. They're going to be playing the Bears next week, so they get a little bit of they get 10 days off before they play. So, I think the defense, they made the plays when they had to. I'm talking about the Bucs defense.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, look, they kept it close. Philly did. I mean, they just got, too big of a hole for them to come out of. And, look, and also to Zach Ertz, after that game, today just found out that he got traded to the Cardinals. They actually need another tight end because Max Williams, he's done for a year with a knee injury, so they really needed him. He can't play till next week because they got to go through protocols and stuff like that. But I think Tampa, they're just chugging along, and Bray's said that he might play till he's 55. So it's just nothing short of amazing what this man has accomplished. He completed 80% of his passes on 40 plus attempts. His 112th career game with 40 plus pass attempts. That's including the playoffs. So, what more can you say about Mr. Bray? But I think we run out of superlatives.
You know what question I want to ask you, Lakeena?
What's up?
What can Brown do for you? And that's Antonio Brown. 9 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. Again, last night he scored 2 last week against the Miami Dolphins. That's 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Lakeena, Antonio Brown, I know he got in late last year, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. He's back fully healthy this year. It looks like right now he's out of trouble as far as off the field activities are concerned, but he's looking like he did his first few years with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think he could keep it up for the rest of the years, assuming that he stays healthy?
And stays out of trouble. Yeah,
that too.
Look, we see how good he can be once he is healthy and he stays out of trouble. So we're seeing that now. And look, I think they could be Tampa Bay could be a very dangerous team. I think they're right there in the team picture as the best team in the NFL. Not just the NFC. So, and look, their defense has been pretty good too. They had a couple of sacks against Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts had a nice showing, had an interception. People are already there. How Philly fans are. They're already chanting for Gardner Minshew's name. So, but I think they just don't have the personnel right now in Philly to compete. And plus, they have a new coaching staff. So, it is what it is. But look, they kept it close. And look, I think the Bucs, they get to chill for a little bit. Brady can rest that thumb and gear up for that Bears game next Sunday.
Yeah, so speaking of the Bears, we'll preview that game between the Bears and the Packers. First place, that's right, I said it. I'm not misspeaking. First place for the NFC North is on the line this Sunday. We'll give you our preview coming up in our next hour. And so stay tuned right there. Stay right there. Right here on Sports Zone Chicago, here on Second City Sports, hashtag Football Friday. Lakeena, as we'll mention it again at the top, Damian Williams is currently on the COVID list for the Chicago Bears. If he has a negative test today and tomorrow, he could possibly play on Sunday. If not, Khalil Herbert, the rookie running back, will get the start. And also in other news around the National Football League, Tua Tagovailoa looks like he'll get the start for the Miami Dolphins as they'll play overseas in London against the winless Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, that game will be on CBS this Sunday starting at 8:30 a.m. Chicago time. Lakeena, the Miami Dolphins have been struggling this year. Without giving our prediction, we'll give our prediction on all the games next hour. But do you think that gives this Miami offense a spark? I think it does. Jacoby Brissett has been downhill.
Yeah, he did what he could, as formidable as he is. But they need Tua back. But unfortunately, I think I saw on the thing that I think that Xavier Howard is out. Let me see. I gotta look up Shefty's latest tweet. But yeah, I think so. That might be an issue for them. But yeah, the opposite ruled out Xavier Howard and Devontae Parker too. So. That could be, that could be a deterrent. Now, again, I don't know if you may switch your predictions, but we'll see what happens there. But and look, I think Miami, they really need this sort of, especially with their the top guys out. This could be, I'm not gonna say the Jaguars could win it, but you never know. Also, to big injury news here, Nick Chubb, with a calf injury for the Browns, he is out against the Cardinals. So. That's not very good news. And also,
who's going to back up Kareem Hunt?
Yeah. Also, Chandler Jones will be out because of COVID protocols because he has COVID, so he's going to be out. So they're both the Cardinals and the Browns are going to be missing some of their top guys.
Yeah, so injuries are starting to play a factor here as we go along in the National Football League. Lakeena, we got a couple of minutes left. I don't want to spend too much time on this subject. It's been talked about to death from front to back all week. We didn't mention it too much last week on the show, but John Gruden, now ex-Las Vegas Raiders head coach, he was released. He resigned, rather, following the loss against the Bears last Sunday. Lakeena, I was going to ask you when the story came out last Friday. We didn't have time to get into it. I thought he shouldn't have coached last Sunday's game against the Bears. It is a moot point now, but you could tell that it had an effect on that Raiders team in that locker room, and you saw the Bears did what they had to do. Now, of course, you guys living under a rock, the Washington football team has been under investigation by the league. And there was the emails that came out that John Gruden, back in 2011, he was working with ESPN Monday Night Football, that he called NFLPA Director DeMar Smith some unruly names. We're not going to get into it here. And there's some other stuff that was said through some email exchanges. Of course, Adam Schefter, he's been thrown in this mess, how he's been reporting this all week long. Lakeena, what are your quick thoughts about it? For me, the NFL is trying to clean up its image. Are they doing a good job at it? I don't think so, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I think Theo Gruden's being like the fall guy, but the fact that he had the gall to say what he said in emails that he didn't think that would get leaked, I think that's sort of like he had the gall to do that. That's just crazy. And also, too, what else are they hiding? How was he being used to kind of like the fall guy? Is he being blackballed? For other things. I mean, they're definitely going to be, they're like thousands and thousands of these emails. So I'm wondering if, the rest of the emails will get leaked eventually. Bruce Allen and Daniel Snyder, you got to think that there's probably more to this, but, or was this being used to kind of throw a guy that they didn't like out the league? So you just don't know. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, nor would I play one on the podcast, but it's still got a whole lot of questions here. And I think, like we said, I think that played a part. People can downplay and say it did, but that Raiders team just looked defeated. You could tell against the Bears. So not making excuses, but it just looked like they just did not play with a lot of intensity.
Yeah, I'm sure you could tell that some of those Raider players looked at him, now ex-coach Gruden, differently after the story came out last Friday. Do I really trust this guy? Can I play for him? Obviously, they're not playing for him now, but do I really trust people like that going forward? I'm just not sure. So we'll see what happens. As you said, Lakeena, this is only the beginning. The snowball is starting. Where it lands, we don't know, but this is the start of something big, unfortunately, for the National Football League as they're trying to clean up their public image. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead on Second City Sports, right here live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, we'll give you our Bears-Packers preview for Week 6 in the National Football League. First place is on the line in the NFC North, and we'll give you our key games to watch for the NFL Week 6 for the Sunday and beyond. And at the bottom of the next hour, Miss Christine Manika, good friend of the show from KXRB Radio in South Dakota, she'll give us her picks for Week 6 in the National Football League. Along with Lakeena McGee, I'm Cindy Brown. You listen to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports Live and in living color on the hashtag Football Friday on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
My apologies for my monitor shaking there. You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
If you have a question or comment for us, you could place them in the comment section on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago or on our YouTube page. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. Place your questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up and running for you. But if you decide to do something stupid or troll, Lakeena will politely give you the boot. Lakeena, let's start our Packers-Bears preview as the Bears are trying to give their rivals up north the boot. The Packers are checking in at 4-1, but while the Bears checking in with a surprising record of 3-2. Of course, the Packers are coming off an overtime win over the Cincinnati Bengals last week, 25-22, despite Mason Crosby of the Packers missing 3 field goals down the stretch. While the Bears, as we talked about, they upset the Raiders last week by the score of 29. Lakeena, let's start off with the quarterback matchups. Is rookie quarterback Justin Fields versus Aaron Rodgers. If you know the recent history of this rivalry, Aaron Rodgers typically tears this Bears secondary apart.
And that might be the case this Sunday. I mean, I think he knows that, Kyle Fuller's not there anymore. So yeah, Jalen Johnson's had his moments, but A. Jackson and everything else. I mean, those guys, I don't trust those guys, unfortunately. I mean, but look, as long as I know they've had some injury issues. I know Aaron Jones is questionable. Robert Tonyan is questionable. I think one of their O-line guys, he's questionable too. So. And okay, yeah, their defense, is not really much to write about. I mean, Jair Alexander is on IR and such, but that's still not a bad defense. I'll say that. I mean, I'll give the Bears the edge there. But look, how much Aaron Rodgers loves playing the Bears. He's like 18-3 or something like that against the Bears. I know, give or take in his whole career. So, and yeah, it's just that look. You always throw the records out there when these two rivals play each other. So, but again, this could be like one of those very close games. Like without giving out my predictions, I think this is going to be a close game, as it usually is. Well, well, sometimes it is between these two, but look, I think, do I think that is Fields capable of having a breakout game against the Packers? Sure, of course he does. Of course he can. But can Aaron Rodgers show you why that he has a great record against the Bears? Could he throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns? Sure, of course. Can the Bears defense do like they did against the Raiders? But they've had some injury concerns as well. Hicks is still, his hamstring is still bothering him, and Khalil Mack. I mean, I know he looked 100%, but you got to think his foot and his knee are still bothering him too. So it really just kind of a lot of things have to go right on both sides for one or the other to win this game.
Taking a look at the numbers for both teams as far as rankings are concerned, on offense, the Bears are still dead last in the National Football League, while Green Bay checks in at number 22. As far as total defense, the Bears are 8th, while the Packers are number 6, surprising to some people. In passing, the Bears are ranked dead last, while Green Bay checks in at number 17. As far as rushing is concerned, the Bears are rushing the football the 10th best in the National Football League, while the Packers are running it at a clip of 22nd place. Lakeena, I want to start back with the defense for the Bears. Jalen Johnson will shadow Devontae Adams for the majority of the game. If you looked at last week's game between the Packers and Bengals, Devontae Adams, I believe, had over 200 yards receiving. I don't see him having that type of performance unless the Bears decide not to pressure Aaron Rodgers. It depends on what scheme the Bears defensive coordinator Sean decides to present out there for Mr. Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is just like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. He hasn't seen a defense that he hasn't recognized throughout his 15 plus years in the National Football League. So I want to see what the Bears gameplay is to disguise coverages for Aaron Rodgers. Can they pressure him through that front four? How many times will they blitz Rodgers? Because even though Aaron Rodgers is old like Ben Roethlisberger, unlike Ben, Aaron Rodgers can still run a little bit. So I want to see how the Bears can contain Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. And number 2, watch out for this player for the Green Bay Packers, tight end Robert Tonyan. He came on toward the end of last year. He was part of that offense for Green Bay, took off the pressure for Devontae Adams. I expect them to do the same thing this Sunday, in which comes to another matchup with the Bears linebackers, and in particular, Roquan Smith. Can he cover Robert Tonyan down the field?
Yeah, that's going to be good luck with that. I'm sure he's primed to have a big breakout game. Kendall Vintner, do you think he can take on Randall Cobb? I mean, do you trust him? I mean, come on. I mean, but yeah, I mean, look, if Fields could stay upright, and the Bears, O-line has actually done a pretty decent job. He's capable. Mm-hmm. But, with David Willis being out because of COVID, and, A-Rob is questionable. Now Mooney's questionable as well. It's going to take, guys like Demir Bird. You might be hearing his name, or you might be hearing of Ryan Nall, our buddy Big Dave Watson's guy, from the Bulls Outcast. I mean, the Battle of Bulls. I mean, that we may hear his name, or will we hear Jimmy Graham's name, or Cole Kmet, or maybe will they actually use their tight ends? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, I mean, it's always, you just never know with this matchup. I mean, could we see a very close game that could come down to a field goal? Sure. But could we also see a game where the Packers could, easily beat the Bears by at least 10 points? Sure. Could the Bears win? Sure. Like all those scenarios could happen. That's just how how wild of a wild card, this game's always is between these two.
What do you expect from this Sunday's matchup, as first place of the NFC North will be on the line between the 3-2 Bears on the lakefront against the 4-1 Green Bay Packers? You can go to our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago, or on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Place your comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up and running for you. Lakeena, let's go on back to the Bears offense. Quarterback Justin Fields, he took some shots last week, but stayed in the game and helped the Bears win. As you mentioned, I think he can have a breakout performance, but it's going to come down to that running game. Who's going to be the backup for Khalil Herbert, just in case that Damian Williams doesn't go. Now, also, I want to focus in on the tight ends, as you just mentioned. Jimmy Graham, we haven't heard from him a lot this year. I think this can be the game for the tight ends for the Bears can break out. Will we see some targets from him? referred to Jimmy Graham. How much will Cole commit? We'll see some targets. That's going to be key. That you had to break this Green Bay defense down. I know you had the Smith brothers back there. You have 21 Savage back there for the Packers as far as their secondary is concerned. So this Green Bay Packers defense is still good. You know they're going to try to get after Mr. Fields with Fields being mobile. But if the Bears, if they could set up the run is effective early. I believe they should use both their tight ends, Graham and Kmet, going downfield. They'll open up the wide receiving core for the Bears moving down the field against this very good Packers defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, Khalil Herbert, I know that he surprised some folks, but they have tape on you now. So no one's going to be surprised by, your running style. So you got to think that the Packers defense will be ready for him. I'm sure he's going to get the ball probably a little bit more. And especially if A-Rob and Mooney are not able to, then Phil's not going to be able to throw the ball as much. He may have to depend on the running back. So we'll see. I mean, that's going to be the very interesting part about it is, I'm sure they're going to be running the ball more. Now, as far as the defense, look, we saw flashes of them. They looked good 1 week, but then the next week so I really don't know. I know, but Danny Trevathan's back. We'll see how much he has left in the tank. Robert Quinn has looked good, but again, sometimes we see him, sometimes we don't. Jalen Johnson, I'm sure he's going to have the task of guarding Devontae Adams. So, and Eddie Jackson, I'm sure he's going to be running around somewhere. So yeah, look, I think all of this is just, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, we've seen it where the Bears look good, but then but like I said before, we may see this whole song and dance again. They look good against teams that are, they're a little bit better than. You got to say that, the Raiders were 100%, their minds were 100% in that game. Let's just be honest. Now you're going to be up against a pretty good, not a great, but still a very formidable Packers team. And, you still got Aaron Rodgers, who loves playing y'all. I know everybody wants to say, well, the Bears could easily win this game, and which they can. But again, this is one of those things. Well, Justin Fields, I've heard on the radio, Justin Fields kind of a breakout thing, and yeah, he can. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, like you said, the defense for the Packers, it's not Baltimore Ravens, Arizona Cardinals, top defense, but they're still very, very good. So, and they still got a lot of, pretty good players you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. So they'll be ready too. So it's going to be kind of like this could be a chess match. So this could come down to maybe a last possession or something, but we'll see.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you as we preview Bears Packers Week 6 from the National Football League coming up this Sunday from the Lakefront at high noon on Fox. You'll get Joe Davis, who's filling in for Kevin Barker as he does his baseball duties, along with Pam Oliver, roaming the sidelines, and one-time Chicago Bear, Greg Olson. For those of you that haven't heard his commentary so far this year, it's been very good. You'll get to hear his commentary this Sunday during the Bears-Packers game. That's a highlight game for Fox as they have regional action for it this week. Lakeena, let's focus in on special teams. Of course, we talked about at the top of the hour, Mason Crosby missed 3 field goals during the fourth quarter last week's win against Cincinnati. Of course, he nailed the game winner in overtime. He had these struggles before. Of course, a few years ago in the game against Detroit, he came out of that. He's been just fine. I don't think he's going to have those type of struggles on the lakefront this Sunday. I don't think weather is going to be a factor. But on the flip side, for the Chicago Bears, they picked up Jakeem Grant from the Miami Dolphins via trade. He's trying to do his best impersonation of Devin Hester, bringing out a punt 5 yards deep into the end zone. He got away with it last week, Lakeena. Of course, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. He's only played 1 game in the Bears uniform. But do you expect him to have a big return this Sunday against the Packers?
Well, he is questionable. He hasn't practiced the last couple of weeks because of a growing injury, so that could be an issue too. But yeah, I mean, he's sort of like he's actually a pretty formidable special teams returner. So I think now that Herbert's going to be running the ball for a little bit, he's kind of been sort of tasked to doing this, special teams. Could special teams be a factor? Sure. I mean, look, Cairo Santos has been near perfect, flawless this year. Pat O'Donnell has had that he's a reason. There's a reason why he's been named as probably like one of the top. He's, Bears of the Year the last couple of years. He's just, a really good punter. And look, I think special teams could be a factor. I mean, I kind of feel like could it come down to a field goal? Could it come down to field position? Yeah, look. I think anything's possible. Like I said, when these two teams play each other. So I know that there's been some, I know that Aaron Rodgers was kind of like killing them with kindness, like, oh, Lance Briggs is one of the best ever, and he should be in the Hall of Fame, and Peanut Tillman, and this and that, because you know how Aaron Rodgers is. So It's always interesting. But yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be. Look, this is good. This should be a very fun match. Look, like you said, Joe Davis is filling in for Kevin Berger, who's been doing baseball for Fox, so he's gonna be doing that for the next couple of weeks. You're gonna be seeing him, who's great. Joe Davis is terrific, by the way. So he's from Chicago, so you're gonna get a good
and the TV voice for the LA Dodgers too.
Yes,
during the
he
regular
is.
Season.
Yes, so
and he does some college football for the network as well. So
and college hoops too. So he's been so he's really good. And look, I'm sure Greg Olson will have his comments about because play for the Bears. He's played the Packers, but a couple of times they've beat him. So I'm sure he'll be sharing some stories.
I'm sure. I wonder if what's the over under that he's going to reference that NFC Championship game in 2010 because he was on that team.
Yes, he was. They may show. Look, they may show a clip of that. So just remember, I think they may pull a fast one, and he may not be very happy about that. But okay, we'll see. I mean, this is going to be, like I said, this just should be a very entertaining game between these two, as it usually is. I don't think it's going to be a Packers blowout like some are saying, but it's like this should be a fun one, I think.
Yeah. We'll give you our picks on not only this game, but other games for the National Football League at the bottom of the hour with our good friend, Miss Christine Manika, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. As we continue on our coverage for Hashtag Football Friday, Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, looking at through the rest of the week 6 schedule in the National Football League, without giving predictions, of course, what other matchups are you looking forward to watching?
One of the 3:00 games got Browns and as they host the Cardinals. This will be a tough one for the Cardinals. I know the Browns are 3-2 after that tough loss against the Chargers last week. But like I said, Nick Chubb's going to be out, so that might be a problem. But also, too, their Cardinals going to be without Chandler Jones due to COVID. So that's going to be kind of like even both teams are going to be without some of their top teams, their top players. So this should be an entertaining one regardless. But again, Arizona, they're going to be traveling cross country, but they don't have to play till 3:00. So this should help their body clocks a little bit. Yeah. So that should, that gives a little bit of advantage. Also, too, Chargers, Ravens. I'm
really looking forward to them. The quarterback matchup is tremendous. Justin Herbert against Lamar Jackson. Of course, the Chargers went on to the East Coast, even though Kansas City is the Midwest, and they won there in a hostile environment a couple of weeks ago. Can they do it again, just going further east to Baltimore in another 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoff?
Battle of 4-1s here. I mean, Cowboys and Patriots. I mean, does that really tickle your fancy, Sid?
I know Jim Nance and the CBS #1 crew will be doing that game, so I'm looking forward to Tony Romo giving. How much praise does he give to Mac Jones, especially if he has the performance of his life? Now, on the flip side for the Cowboys, it'll be a tough road test for them. But on the flip side for the Patriots, I want to see what Mac Jones could do. If it's a very good Cowboys defense, of course, they were terrible the last couple years, especially last year, giving up bad numbers in historical proportions. But I want to see how Mac Jones does against a very good Cowboys defense. Will Ezekiel Elliott keep up his rushing resurgence over the last couple of weeks? Well, Dak Prescott keep up his resurgence. He's playing at an MVP type level right now.
Yeah, this should be. Look, I think this could be. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be an upset, but should be an interesting game. I mean, the Patriots would love to get back to 500. Winning this game, win this game. This should be an interesting one there. The 325 game. The battle of 2 and 3s. I don't think NBC thought that this could be I don't think they thought that either one of these teams would be 2 and 3, but they are. You got the Seahawks and the Steelers. This should be an interesting one there.
I may use that to take a nap. I don't know. Especially without Russell Wilson, Big Ben Roethlisberger has been beat up like a rag doll these last couple of years, and this so far the season has been even worse. It's going to come down to who's going to run the ball more effective.
Yeah,
as we mentioned, Smith came in relief. He did his thing against the against the Los Angeles Rams, but now they have tape on them. So let's see what he could do, what he could do in his first start in a few years.
Oh boy, that should be yeah. yeah,
Keena's at a loss for words right now, folks.
Yeah, I might be watching something else during that time, but it should be a good one, a good Monday nighter here. You got the Bills and the Titans. I think I'm sure the Titans would love to get back on track and kind of give the Bills or something. And it looks like AJ Brown might be back for that game. Nothing's official yet, but he did practice the last couple of days, so he could come back, and they really need him. So. Without give your prediction, what do you think is for that game?
These two teams have been going back and forth with each other the last few years. Tennessee has owned Buffalo in these matchups. Remember, Josh Norman now, I believe I forget which team he's with now, but when he was with Buffalo last year, of course, Derrick Henry gave him the famous stiff arm up to the third row of the sidelines. And as we mentioned before, in football, it comes down to the trenches. Tennessee has it more in terms of running the football. Of course, Buffalo, Josh Allen, they had a big upset win at Kansas City last week. This could be a trap game, even though it's on prime time. If Buffalo wants to win this game, Josh Allen, your quarterback, cannot be your leading rusher.
Yeah, you have to.
Even though the Titans defense is not that great.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, and I think they may run the ball more with Devin Singletary and the rest of them. They'll probably use it because they're opportunistic, the Titans defenses, but they're not like great. So, but it should be an interesting one there in the AFC on Monday night. Also, too, for those of you who are these are the first of the bye weeks, folks. Excuse me. Of course, Atlanta, the Jets, they played in London last week, so they get the bye this week. And also, New Orleans and San Fran are off this week, so adjust your fantasy football rosters accordingly.
Yes, and I have to do so picking up another quarterback, or do I go with Ryan Tannehill, who's on my roster? Because I met Ryan, and I'll decide that after the show, obviously, so I have some decisions to make. You're listening to Hashtag Football Friday right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Coming up, our good friend Christine Manika from KXRB Radio in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, will be joining us for our weekly picks from the National Football League. Lakeena, let's go back to the early games. This will be the headline game for CBS at 1 p.m. Eastern. There'll be the Kansas City Chiefs at the Washington Football Team from our nation's capital. Both teams are checking in at 2-3. Could this be upset alert for Washington? Could it?
Maybe. Oh, well, look, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that the Chiefs, they're going to be shorthanded because a lot of their guys are hurt right now or banged up. So Washington perhaps maybe take advantage of that and perhaps maybe put KC in the middle of another tailspin. We'll see. I mean, look, I think we may hear a lot of Chase Young, on Sunday. So, he may have a couple of sacks on Patrick Mahomes, or he's going to have Mahomes running for his life. So it'll be interesting to see what they have in store. I mean, I think Washington is one of those teams where you don't know. You thought that maybe they looked good, but then last week they did not look good. So, they'll have the number 2 team. You got Eagle and Charles Davis and Evan Washburn will have the call in Landover, Maryland. So that should be a fun one.
Kansas City has right now they're favored by 5.5 points.
Okay, yeah. So I'll take the under on that. I just don't.
Okay.
Right now, right now I haven't. I need them to show me that they're in Missouri. So I'm in the show me mode. Show me that you're still right there. Because they're suffering from the Super Bowl runner-up hangover, which we've seen this before. So that's
a fair point. Yeah, I was just say that's a fair point. So, like you said, the Kansas City, especially on the defensive side of ball, they need to have a better performance and stop taking stupid penalties. And on the offensive side, Patrick Mahomes, stop turning the football over. I don't want to blame it all on him, but he needs to take better care of the football.
Yeah, he's a veteran now. He should know better. Vikings and Panthers. That might be,
Yeah.
That might be an interesting one. That's a noon game on Fox. So I don't know. It's sort of like both teams are looking for. I'm sure Panthers are looking for a bounce back win. Minnesota's hoping that they turn the corner. So we'll see how they look. their defense, the Panthers' defense, still a little bit suspect to me, especially with some of the injuries they've suffered. So I don't know. I mean, this game's going to be another one of those toss-ups because I want to kind of stay away from this game.
A couple of things on this game. One, Minnesota, they were very lucky to win last week against the Lions on the last-second field goal. Detroit had that game won, but things happen. We're not going to feel sorry that much for Dan Campbell crying after the game, so we'll leave that alone. But Carolina, like you said, they have a bitter taste in their mouth. They gave that game away to Philadelphia last week. Sam Darnold going back to his old habits of turning the football over. Carolina should have had that game won. So it's going to come down to running the football for both these teams. So hopefully, if you're Minnesota, Dalvin Cook is healthy. And on the flip side for Carolina, hopefully Sam Darnold can take care of the football and for that Panthers defense to start creating some turnovers. Kirk Cousins is iffy on the road. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And now to spice up the rest of our show and to get her comments on some other subjects before we'll get to her picks along with the rest of ours at the bottom of the hour. Join us from her actual studios at KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's looking like a professional, like she always does. Here's our good buddy, Chicago's Ariel, Miss Christine Manika. Christine, welcome to the show.
Well, good to be back. I still feel bad about last week. My computer was on the fritz, and stuff happens. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, you got to keep pushing. That's what you do.
Well, now you got a nice little setup. You're your own studio, so.
You get a little insight. You get a little behind the scenes moments.
Yeah. So, since we have a few minutes in this segment, Christine, we've been talking about football. We'll get back to football when we do our picks. But I want to get your quick thoughts about the Chicago White Sox. Of course, earlier this week, they were eliminated by the Houston Astros in 4 games. What were your thoughts on this series, and what are you looking forward to, hopefully, with this new CBA being signed, sealed, and delivered, hopefully on time? What do you look for the White Sox to do during the offseason?
I think it's very positive to note that all of the players want Tony La Russa back. It wasn't like that when he first came on with the team. They were totally against it like the rest of us were. I'm still hesitant about it. I'm not going to lie, but it seems like despite all the controversies that La Russa has had this past season, he's really gravitated towards this team, and it seems like he figured out a way to connect with not only the veterans on the team but also the up and coming players as well. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing that relationship grow as time continues on for this team. Hopefully they'll go further into the playoffs. I think they got robbed a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, but hey, you know what? It was fun. It was a great season on their part.
Well, I think I've noticed that, 'cause I heard Tim Anderson say this, that they kind of look at him as kind of like a father figure, some of them, even a grandfather figure in some cases. So maybe that's why, I guess, maybe, and plus with the St. Louis job now open. So that's why the speculation is that, but although there have been rumors that he actually is coming back. So we'll see. Do you think Mother Nature kind of played a part as well? Because, the rain hit on Monday, and then things kind of went haywire, and then Correa, got it hit off Rodon, and then that kind of started the whole wheels started falling off for the White Sox. They went back to bad habits.
Yeah, I think weather always has some sort of a factor, no matter if you're playing baseball or football, anything like that. In all honesty, I thought having that extra day was going to work better for them, since they had such a huge rally going on for them the day before when they returned back home to the guaranteed rate field. So I thought that it was actually going to help them. I guess it just wasn't their day. That's just how sometimes it works. Literally around the office here, I've been hearing 10-1 all week. Not a time.
Ouch.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, yep, I got it. Thanks.
We got about a minute or so left before we have to hit the break for the bottom of the hour. Of course, the national championship, the National League Championship Series starts this weekend between Atlanta and the Dodgers. The rematch from a year ago, of course. The Braves, they say they have some unfinished business after blowing the 3-1 lead last year in the bubble. Of course, the American League Championship Series starts tonight with Houston and Boston. Who takes both those series, Christine? Who's your World Series matchup and your World Series winner?
Okay, I got Boston winning against the Astros just
Good
because.
call. Good call. It's not what you think, folks. Good call. Continue.
I almost wore my Boston shirt today because my dad, he's a Red Sox fan.
Okay.
So so that's how I inherited that. And he was at the last parade and stuff like that. And then for the Dodgers, I'm going to go for the Dodgers just because there's a South Dakota connection with the Dodgers. A pitcher, his name is Blake Trahan. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
He's a former Jackrabbit, so he went to South Dakota State University. So I got to cheer a little bit for that hometown guy a little bit.
Yeah, what did you think about that call to end that Giants Dodgers series last night?
That's what
World Florida man.
everybody's talking about.
That was not a strike three. I'm sorry, that was not a check strike three. Sorry.
No, and that's not how a season should end. So hopefully, maybe the MLB will review that for the future. But yeah, it's a sour taste, that's for sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, we hit the bottom of the hour. We're going to take our 2-2 break. When we return, we'll have our Week 6 picks from the National Football League featuring our good friend Christine Manika. Lakeena is going to have our results from last week and our overall totals. We'll wait for that. And Christine, we want to get in some other topics with you as well before we close out our last segment of the show for this week. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, Christine with you. We'll be right back.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine with you as we are about to give you our Week 6 picks from the National Football League. Lakeena, remind me before we get up out of here, Christine, you're going to say it with us as well. I'd like to apologize to a group of people that we actually serve on this program. We didn't get to it on our last show on Monday, Lakeena, so remind me to do that before we get up out of here. You probably know what I'm talking about,
yes, I do.
Another subject we need to discuss amongst ourselves. That's before we get up out of here, of course. Well, after our NFL picks, Lakeena, present to us our results from last week and overall for the season.
We actually know it wasn't too bad. We each won 9 games. I think Sid, you won 10, so you actually are still up by 1. But don't worry, Christy, you and I are right behind him. We're only 1 game back, so it's
those damn Chiefs.
I know, right? That killed you.
Chasing you, Sid.
That kills you. That's what kills you. You'll be up 2 games if it wasn't for the Chiefs. So
and thank you, Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? We said, got saved. It was a saving grace. Oh, the Ravens with the big comeback. So again, for those of you in case you missed it, the teams are on bye: Falcons, the Jets, because they played in London last week, and the Saints and the 49ers. So for adjust your fantasy teams accordingly. And speaking of London game, we get the number 2 of the London series. We got the Dolphins and the Jags. Sid, you start us off.
Hopefully, head coach Urban Meyer for the Jaguars he has been on his best behavior so far this week. It'll be more than just London Bridges falling down on his head if the Jacksonville Jaguars decide not to show up. Will he be leaving with the pink slip and link cards like his buddy Joe Philbin did a decade ago for the Dolphins? We shall see. But I know Tua Tagovailoa should be returning as far as the starting quarterback position for the Dolphins. Those London games could get crazy. I think this one's going to get ugly more than crazy. But I don't like this pick, but I'm going with the Dolphins just because.
Yeah, I'm going to hop on that, Sid, and say this is garbage. Well, like, this is my hot take. This is absolute garbage. I mean, we are literally sending a couple of the worst teams in the NFL to London. It's like we're punishing the Brits with this one. You know what I mean? I'm going to get in trouble for saying that probably, but just because, like what Sid said, I'm going with the Dolphins. Either way, this is just awful.
I want to apologize to our friends in London for this, especially if it is being a stinky game. It's actually going to be nationally televised on CBS at 9:30 our time. Greg Gumbel, I believe Trent Green will have the call. Yeah, they'll have the call. Well, actually, Kevin Harlan and Trent Green and Melanie Collins will have the call from in London. So this might not be a very good game. So we're warning folks right now. But I'll pick the Dolphins just because I know Xavier Howard and Devontae Parker are both going to be out, but Tua should be back, and that should sort of galvanize that offense. So I think that should definitely help them.
Let's see what Trevor Lawrence does on the big stage.
Yeah, especially in London, especially. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Battle of 2 and 3s. Christine, you can start this one. You got the Chiefs and Washington.
Oh, what did I say for this? I said, this is probably going to go to the Chiefs. They got, I believe, so it's not a home field game. And let's be honest, the Chiefs, they have not performed to what everybody was expecting them to perform. You know what I mean? Like this is not the same team we saw in the Super Bowl. They're just not, for whatever reason. And because of how strong their team is against Washington, the Washington team, I feel like I got to go with the Chiefs. So hopefully they should be able to pull this one off, even though they've had a tough season, but you never know. Crazier things can happen.
The Washington football team has a very good defense, but their offense is hit and miss. I know Terry McLaurin, as of this show today, he missed practice for Washington. Their star wide receiver. I got Antonio Gibson on my fantasy team. Looks like he's got to carry that offense. I think because of the opponent and they're playing on the road, the Chiefs should escape with the win. So I'm going to Kansas City for that alone.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I feel like, the Chiefs have had their issues, but again, you trust the Chiefs offense more than you do the Washington's offense, and plus, especially since like McLaren will not play, so that's going to be a factor as well. So I'll pick the Chiefs, pulling away. We can skip this one, guys. You've got the Rams and the 1-4 Giants. I know we're doing the Los Angeles, going cross country, going to the Giants, but the Giants are just terrible. So I'll pick the Rams and a runaway. They're going to run away in the second half.
I'm going with the LA Rams as well. Of course, Saquon Barkley, bad luck for him, rolling that ankle last week. Daniel Jones, I know he was carted off the field. He's expected to play, but I don't think that's going to matter. I'm going with the Rams. Like you said, the East Coast time zone shouldn't matter. Yeah. Hopefully they don't throw their cleats out there expecting to win, because if they do, they're going to be in trouble. So the Rams should come out and set the tone right away. Don't give the Giants any life.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rams like you guys. I want to point out though, Stanford, he has really made a giant impact on this team. I mean, it's like he almost gave them like a rebirth, so to speak. I believe he's top 5 now in passing rate and yards per completion. So he's just had a monstrous season. And for once, he finally has the right tools in his toolbox to use his abilities. So it's got to be the Rams for this one. They'll probably crush the Giants if I'm thinking of this right.
I wish you said what's the over under? What's the number for the Rams?
The Rams are favored by 6.5, and the over under is 50.
Okay,
take the over. I say take the over. I say take the over. I'm just saying. The battle of the 1 and 4s in the AFC South. You got the Texans and the Colts. Sid, you start.
The rookie quarterback for the Texas Mills, I've been very impressed by him. He had a good showing last week. Unfortunately, the Houston defense couldn't hold on. In the second half, they lost to the Patriots. On the flip side, the Colts did put up a good battle on the road. They should have won that game at Baltimore on Monday night. I trust the Colts a little bit more. Is it in Indianapolis?
Yes.
Okay, so for that reason alone, I'm going with the Colts.
Same thing. I'm going to go with the Colts for once for this one. I think this entire season I've been going against the Colts, but just because they actually kind of have a veteran quarterback, and
or busted ankles.
Exactly. So, and they have a more stable situation than what Houston does. So for me, it's the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Colts should have won that game. I still don't know against Baltimore. I don't know how they lost that game. I'm still flabbergasted by that, but I'm sure they're not going to be in a very good mood. So I'm going to pick the Colts. The tricky one here. You got Cincy against the 0-5 Lions. Christine, you start this one.
Well, I'm glad to hear that Joe Burrow's okay. That was kind of, I looked it up on like a throat contusion. Like, what does that mean? He needs his tonsils out or something? But I guess he got like hit in the neck really bad. So I'm glad he's okay. And it should be a great road win for them. So I'm going to go Cincy.
Another question is Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Lions, is he over his tears yet? Because
right?
I'm sorry. There's no crying in football, no. But I did watch the majority of that game live last week via my computer, and the Lions outplayed the Vikings, especially in that second half. They should have walked away with a victory, but the Lions are not there yet. Could it happen? I want to pick the Lions, but I can't. I'm going with Cincinnati. And they had the issues with special teams themselves last week. They should have beaten the Packers, but I think they'll do enough to get on the road. I think this will be surprisingly close, but Cincinnati should walk away with this victory on the road. It'll be tough.
This could be one of those 9-6, 6-3 type of games because I just think
pre-1980s football from Lakeena as usual.
Yeah, well, you actually have to have one, right? Joe Burrow, I mean, voice rest. I mean, there are more than a couple of folks that should be on voice rest, but I won't go there. We won't go there. That's another subject.
Cincinnati's favored by 3.5.
I'm picking the Bengals then. Yeah, I'm taking the over and picking the Bengals. Although, look, this could be one of those ugly ones. Who knows? Right, a good one here. A battle of 4-1s. You got the Chargers against the Ravens. Sid, you start this one.
I think because they're at home and they got lucky on Monday night, I'm going with Baltimore. Now, shout out to the Chargers, as we call them on this show, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. Justin Herbert is becoming a top 5 quarterback in the league. I know, as we talked about in our last segment, Lakeena, before we brought on Christina, that they won a tough game on the road a couple of weeks ago at Kansas City. It's tough for them to ask that team to go do it again in a 1 p.m. Eastern time zone. I think they're up to the challenge. A shout out to head coach Brandon Stokely, but I think Baltimore just has a little bit more, and they're more juiced up, and they're thankful that they won that game last week against the Colts. So I'm taking Baltimore in a close one.
I'm going to go Baltimore too. It's home field. They're still probably riding that Monday night high. So let's keep that momentum going for them. I've seen their fans get rowdy during home games. So yeah, Ravens.
They're favored by 3.
Yeah. I know they have a short week, but also too, they're hosting the Chargers. If it would be different if they were going cross country and hosting the Chargers coming off a short week, so that helps them. I don't know. I don't want to say they're a team of destiny. It's kind of too early to make those kind of proclamations, but they should not have won that game against the Colts on Monday night. They had no business winning that game. So you got to be pretty good if you can win a game like that. So this should be a fun one. It'll be a close one, but I'm picking the Ravens just because they're at home. All right. This should be an intriguing one here. You got the Vikings and the Panthers. Christine, you start this one.
Home field advantage for the Panthers. The Vikings are hopeless. Going for the Panthers. Drop Mike. That's it.
Do you like that?
Yeah, you like that? Short and sweet to the point.
You like that?
Oh gosh.
Ooh-wee.
Oh my gosh.
Minnesota was very lucky to get out of there with the win at home last week against the terrible Lions team. Carolina, they blew a big second half lead to Philadelphia. Which team do I trust more or trust less? It's $1 million question. It's a toss-up. I don't like this pick. I really don't. But I'm going with Carolina.
Okay, good.
Christine had a finger on the trigger. You better not pick Minnesota. You better not.
I honestly have been back and forth on this. I wish I could stay away from this game because I just don't know what to think. This could be one of those toss-up games.
Yeah,
it is according to Vegas. Carolina currently is at a -1. So if you have money, spend it somewhere else. Don't leave this game alone.
Leave this game alone.
Yeah, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Steer clear of it. Steer clear of this game. So I'm picking. As for some reason, I'm picking the Vikings. I think they're kind of like this is gonna be one of those. I think they're one of those teams where like they can get into a little bit of. I'm going with the upset. The upset, if you will. So I'm staying away from it. If you're a gambler, don't go near this game.
Gosh.
I do expect Justin Jefferson to have a good game. I have him on my fantasy team. That's the only thing I care about for this game. That's it.
He might have a big. Okay. He might have a breakout game too. A really good one here in the first of 3 o'clock matchup. You got the Cardinals and the Browns. Sid, you start.
I know Christine has some great interest in this game because of her boy Baker Mayfield on her fantasy team. She's gonna be missing one. Baker's gonna be missing one of his starting running backs. So of course, Arizona, on the flip side, it looks like they're gonna be without Chandler Jones. Now Arizona again is going out to the East Coast. They did it early in the year, upset the Titans, and I believe they went out there early in the season as well. But like you mentioned, Lakeena, in our last segment, the time factor is not going to be a difference because 3 o'clock Chicago time is their starting time for all their home games, non-prime time. But I think because of the home field advantage, especially after what happened on the road last week, I'm going with Cleveland. It's going to be an ugly one, but I'm going with Cleveland. And Cleveland is favored by 3.
Yeah.
Overall score is 53.5.
You took the words out of my mouth, Sid. However, this is going to be a close one. Now Arizona, they just got Zach Ertz. That's going to really pick up speed for them, I feel like.
He's not playing this week because he played last night for Philly.
Damn. There we go.
Damn.
He has to go through protocols too. So so that's why he's not playing. Besides, but he already played already.
No, so just forget I said that point. We can edit that out. Because it's home field advantage, and we've all have seen what the Browns can do, what the Browns fans can do. So let's go, Baker. Let's go, Browns.
Yeah, I have Cleveland. I've been kind of back and forth on this game, but I'm going with Cleveland because it is in Cleveland. I know Nick Chubb is out, so I think you're going to get a big show from Kareem Hunt. Remember, Chandler Jones is out for the Cardinals, so that might be a little bit of an issue too with their defense. JJ Watt might get a couple of sacks. Who knows? But I think it's going to be kind of a slugfest, though. I think this could be one of those high-scoring games. I think. But
Browns defense needs to show up.
They do. So, that's why I think Kyler Murray might have a good game. Even though I know he's a little bit banged up because of his shoulders, it feels like he should be good to go. It's just very sore. There's no ligament damage or anything like that. So I'm picking Cleveland though. I kind of, especially since they're not going to be in a very good mood after what happened last week against the Chargers. So they may not be in a good mood. So we'll see. All right, AFC West here. You got the Raiders and the Broncos. Both these teams have kind of had good starts, but have kind of fallen back to earth. Raiders in that situation, Rich Bisaccia takes over as interim head coach for the time being. I'm picking the Broncos at home just because I think there's just so much turmoil in Vegas right now.
I'm going with Denver as well. Maybe the Raiders will play well now since the whole John Gruden situation is since John Gruden's no longer roaming the sidelines. Yeah, I think you'll see a value effort, but because of the home field advantage, and Denver needs to get back on track, I'm going with the Broncos.
You got to respect Derek Carr for what he said about John Gruden. That takes a lot for someone to say, hey, I like him as a person. I just don't like what he did. You know, that's tough. That's a tough position to be in. And again, another South Dakota connection. The interim coach for the Raiders, he went to Yankton College in South Dakota for a little bit. So there's another fun fact for you. But because, you know, Denver, they're at home, they need a win. They've had a pretty decent season so far. So I think they're hungry for another win on their hand. And don't let this game fool you. This could be a tough battle for both sides, but because it's home field, I'm going to go Denver.
Should be an interesting one. Another interesting one here. You got the 4-1 Cowboys against the 2-3 New England Patriots. Christine, you start this one.
Well, it's going to be a close one, but you know, Dak is back. Dallas actually is the number 2 right now for offense, and then the Patriots, they have the number 5 in defense. So it's going to be a really good matchup, but Dak he's been so impressive this season. He should get maybe the comeback player of the year award, in my opinion, just because of how great he's been able to come back from that horrific injury that everybody saw last year. So I'm going to go say Dallas for this one.
I agree with you, Christine. I believe it's going to be a close one. Dallas will come out on top. But as we talked about Lakeena in our last segment, this is going to be CBS's #1 game for their doubleheader Sunday. On Sunday, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz will be on the call for that one. What's the over-under on how much props that Tony Romo gives rookie quarterback Mac Jones for the Patriots? You know it's going to be potential love fest.
Probably. It'll probably end up being that way. Remember,
I see Christine roll her eyes.
Yeah, I see that.
No, never.
Oh no. But I think Dallas should win it. It's going to be close though. Remember, Lyle Collins will be back too from his suspension, so that should help even more that O-line. So that should definitely help them. And also too, look, I think the Patriots will keep it close, but I think Dallas is going to pull away late. Although I'm sure the crowd at Foxborough will be rocking there, so yeah, that should be a good game. I'm Sunday nighter. I'm sure NBC probably did not expect this, especially with the team records, and now one of their top guys is out. Seahawks and Steelers. Remember, Geno Smith is a starter with Russell Wilson being out. So Sid, you start this one.
This is going to be an ugly game. As I said before, it's going to come down to who's going to run the ball effectively. I trust Pittsburgh.
I trust Pittsburgh. Yep, I agree. My poor Russell Wilson. What my poor QB1.
Toss it up to Russell.
Yeah, exactly. I will have to say, I think I saw this. This is only the second quarterback that Seattle has started besides Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty impressive in itself. So it's tough not to see him, come out for this one. But yeah, it's going to be the Steelers, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Seattle's favored by 2.5. The over/under total is 48. Take the under in the total.
And I think the Steelers will win this one too. I know Juju Smith is out for the Steelers, so both teams are banged up. Again, this could be a very ugly game. This could be like a 12-10 or 13-10 or whatever. So, which could very end up happening with these two teams. So, I think because I trust the Steelers offense a little bit more, I'm gonna pick the Steelers. But then, look, watch Geno Smith throw for like 4 or 5 touchdowns or something like that, which would be a career best for him. All right.
Yeah, he'll be like his buddy Matt Flynn, pick up $100 million contract and then fade into the abyss.
Yeah, maybe.
That's how Russell Wilson got his start. Facts.
That is true. Should be a good one here on Monday night. You got the Bills and the Titans. Sid, you start this one.
As I mentioned before, the Titans and the Bills, they played each other in the regular season over the last few years. The Titans have gotten the best of Buffalo. Let's look at the line here. Buffalo's favored by 3.5. This is actually a toss-up. Tennessee, They've been off and on the last couple of weeks. Buffalo, this is a classic trap game for them, especially after winning at Kansas City on last Sunday in prime time in front of a national audience. I know I'm gonna regret this in the morning. I'm going with Tennessee.
Wow! What?
Really? Okay.
I'm going with Tennessee. I am.
Okay.
Can I just say, Sid, I'm going against you and saying the Bills. They've just been dominating.
I get it.
How can you go against Josh Allen like that? What's going on?
Calm down, young lady. First of all, number two, as we said in our last segment before we brought you on, Christine, Josh Allen was the leading rusher for Buffalo last Sunday in Kansas City. If that happens again, even though the Titans' defense is not that great, if Josh Allen is your team leader in rushing yards, that's not a good sign. You got away with it last week. You cannot get away with it again this week.
Yeah. But, Sid, just to spite you, I'm saying the Bills.
Oh, my God. Okay. Play nice, you two. Look, they have to look, that defense has to stop Derrick Henry. That's going to be a tough task. They've got the guys to do it. You've got Edmonds, you got Ed Oliver. They're more than capable of doing that. Now, on the offensive side, I mean, look, like I said before on the previous segment, Titans defense is not much to write home about. So you may see a lot of Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. So I feel like it's going to be close. Tennessee will keep it close, thanks in much in part to Derrick Henry. But I don't think we're going to be seeing like a letdown here with Buffalo. I think they will win this game, and they'll win it pulling away. All right, the NFC North rivals duking it out over at Soldier Field this week. Packers and the Bears. Christine, you start this one.
Gosh, can I just say last week I had a whole prepared statement on why I thought the Raiders were going to win against the Bears. It was a whole giant list about like X, Y, and Z. And I didn't even get to share it. Thank God, because, they ended up proving me wrong and they ended up winning. What I love about Chicago is their run game. And I'm saying that because you have their two biggest hitters. You have Tariq Cohen that's still out. David Montgomery, who's going to be out continuously for a little bit longer. They're both, what are you going to do? How can you replace those two heavy hitters? And what Chicago is great at doing with that position is just plugging and chugging. You know what I mean? They can just plug anybody in there, fill it in, and it's like, boom, a rocket went off. So that is probably the position they least have to worry about, thank God. When it comes to this rivalry, this iconic rivalry, Justin Fields has a lot to prove right now because he's going up against one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in the NFL, who actually had a lot of complimentary things to say about Chicago and the sports and stuff like that, which I didn't expect that to come out of Aaron Rodgers. But because of the history and knowing what Aaron Rodgers can do and knowing that Fields is still just a rookie, the Bears still being kind of banged up at the moment. I believe, is Khalil Mack playing on Sunday, or we don't know yet?
He was he did not practice.
He didn't practice? Okay.
No.
So that has a factor to do with it too. So because of all that combined, it's going to be a great game, but I think Green Bay is going to win this one, and I owe my boss a coffee on Monday.
I think the Bears would keep it close, surprisingly. I think Fields will have a decent game, but if Damian Williams, if he's not available for Sunday because he's placed on a COVID list today, actually yesterday he was placed on a COVID list. If he's not able to go on Sunday, I think it hurts the Bears running game just that much more. I think the Bears will kind of keep it close, but the Packers will make that one big play at the end. That's what's going to come down to. So I'm going with Green Bay.
Yeah, A-Rob. Yeah, I know. Yeah, A-Rob. Yeah, I know, right? A-Rob didn't practice either. Akeem Hicks didn't practice. Neither did Max. So they're all questionable for Sunday. So if those guys can't play, it's going to get ugly really quick, I think. And I know the Packers are banged up too. But again, do you trust Aaron Rodgers or do you trust Justin Fields? Are you there yet with Justin Fields? I think Fields is going to have a good game. He may rush for a touchdown, maybe throw for one or two. But I think the Packers are just much more talented. And I think the Bears will keep it close, but I think the Packers will pull away late. So I'm picking the Packers as well.
All right, those are for our Week 6 picks from the National Football League. Check back with us next week to see our results. Breaking news before we close out the show. Christian McCaffrey, running back for the Carolina Panthers, he'll miss his third straight game as the Panthers will host the Minnesota Vikings this Sunday. We have a couple minutes left here on Second City Sports, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine with you. Lakeena, I had to offer an apology to a group of fans that we usually cater to throughout the entire season. We didn't do it on our last show on Monday. I'd like to apologize to the fans of the Chicago Blackhawks. We didn't get into our little mini-season preview.
Yeah.
I know they had their season debut this past Wednesday. We'll get into the television coverage in just a moment, but I know they lost to the Colorado Avalanche 4-2. They made it interesting late, but I know they play New Jersey tonight and then at Pittsburgh tomorrow before coming home on Tuesday to host the New York Islanders in that home. But I know that's going to be an emotional day for a whole lot of people as fans are allowed back in the stands. Proof of COVID tests, negative COVID tests, or vaccination. Of course, that'll be the home debut of Jonathan Taves. Of course, Troy Murray, the radio analyst, is going through it with cancer right now. We wish him the best from all of us here at Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago. And of course, they're going to honor the late great Tony Esposito, the great goalie from back in the day. So it's going to be a pretty emotional night coming up this Tuesday night. So we're here for you Blackhawks fans as usual all season long right here on Second City Sports. Of course, no other show in Chicago across the country will cover the Blackhawks from start to finish like we do. So we'll give the Blackhawks their just due on this show throughout the season. Now, Lakeena, hopefully you too, Christine, did you guys check out the coverage from ESPN? They made their return to television covering the National Hockey League for the first time in 17 years. Of course, Wednesday, it was the debut of the NHL on TNT. Lakeena, I'll start with you. What did you think about the coverage? ESPN brought it back the old theme song.
Yes, it was like, oh my God, I felt like a kid again with that theme. Yes. I mean, it was just, they I think they bumped up a little bit, but it was still, the coverage was very solid. It looks like, I think, Mark Messier and Chris Chelios are going to do just fine. They might have their little battles here and there, because they play each other for years, but I think it's going to be, I think the ESPN, that crew is going to be just fine. And I kind of feel like I give it, I think it had like really good rates. I think about like a 700,000 rating. It was actually not too bad for ESPN game.
And TNT as well, 670,000.
Yeah, so that's those are good numbers for them. So yeah, I think, look, Wayne Gretzky actually looked sounded pretty good doing doing. I mean, we all thought that he wouldn't be, but look, I think Charles Barkley knew what he was doing when he basically recruited for the telecast. So yeah, I think both networks did very well. I think it's only going to get better.
Christine?
Yeah, I saw a lot of great posts on social media about the return and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool. I was really impressed with the Knights, the Las Vegas Knights, their whole like great presentation and stuff like that.
Yes,
wow.
That was fun.
Yeah,
wow! Like,
we gotta make a road trip out there, all three of us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like that. That's pretty impressive for not really being known for like a hockey area. So I was fairly impressed with everything. What I am disappointed about for the Blackhawks, they got rid of their ice crew. From what I
saw that. I heard that. Yeah, that's tough.
My cousin, she was on the ice crew. So someone messaged me about it, and I said, "What? Like that's interesting." So I asked, and she's like, "Yeah, they just decide to cut it." So it's unfortunate to see a tradition like that go away, but I think they're keeping it at some capacity, just not what it was.
Right.
Yeah, the Blackhawks
home games. Part for home games, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned the Blackhawks, or as an organization, they're going through it both positively and negatively. Of course, we talked about the stuff off the ice all summer. Of course, Pat Foley, the game tonight against New Jersey will be NBC Sports Chicago's debut. And unfortunately, I do mean unfortunately with the capital U, this will be Pat Foley's last season. His contract was not renewed, so he's going to this is going to be his last season behind the television microphone. And so the Hawks, we'll see. I did pick them to be a playoff team, but they'll be in the bottom feeder of the rest of the conference between 6 and 8 range. So they will sneak into the playoffs, but after that, we'll see we'll see what happens. Congratulations to the Seattle Kraken. Is it Kraken? The Kraken. Sorry, the Kraken. The Kraken. Yeah, the Kraken. By Kraken. Shout out Terry Boris. Shout out to the Seattle Kraken. Now, as you mentioned, Christine, they lost to Las Vegas Golden Knights the other night on ESPN on last Tuesday. But last night they went into Nashville and beat those hated Predators 4-2. I did watch the replay of that live via my computer last night before I went to bed. So listening to John Forslund, longtime Carolina Hurricanes TV announcer now.
Yes.
He's a voice of Seattle. Of course, former friend of the Dean Davis show, which I produced back in the day. So he was great on the call last night. So shout out to the Seattle Kraken. They defeated Nashville last night for their first ever win in the National Hockey League, 4-2 on the road.
Kudos to them, to the Kraken, and let's hope the Hawks can rebound, because they did not look very good against the Avalanche on Wednesday. They did not. They were terrible. I think Marc Andre Fleury is trying to hope that maybe he should have retired. But let's see if they can make it right. Let's see if they can make it right tonight, though.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from you, Christine, that bothered you, or you want to give a shout out to before we close out?
That bothered me. We'd have to do another show if we.
I'm
I'm kidding. No, I'm so kidding. But no, I mean it's great to be back on here with a working computer. So it's been fun. Thank God.
All right, that closes another show for us here on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine with you. Lakeena, it's been another great episode. We'd like to thank Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th, on soxon35th.com. Check out that website. In the podcast, he does a great job with the rest of his crew over there. He hopped on with us to do White Sox. Christine, thank you, as always, for joining us. We'll see you next week. Stay right there. Lakeena closes out.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can catch any of our live shows or any ones that you missed, including this one. You can go back and watch them and listen to them. Also, Sports Zone Chicago is available on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can catch the audio version of this podcast of Second City Sports on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, that WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Lakeena will be remiss if we didn't say congratulations to the editor-in-chief at War Media, Mr. Kyle Means. He's adding more duties. He's going to NBC Sports Chicago to become a writer, and so a good friend of the show. So congratulations to him as well. So he'll do great stuff with them over there, along with our buddy Mr. Tony Gill. So the NBC Sports Chicago is hopping over there. And of course, shout out to our colleague and friend Kenneth Davis. He's the host of NBC Sports Chicago Bears podcast. That's Under Center. Make sure you check that out as well. They do great content over there.
Yeah, it is terrific. So enjoy all the sports, everything. And also, too, we will be doing our mini Bulls NBA preview coming up in our next show. So don't worry, all you NBA fans. We will be doing it. We got you guys. So don't worry. For Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday. And enjoy the games, everybody.
As always, go Sox, and unfortunately, Spurs. Till Monday, holla!
Oh, and go Sky. They play tonight.
Yes,
they play this weekend. So, so I'm sure it's gonna be a sellout over at Wintrust. So, make sure you guys check them out.
Throw your rollers in the sky.